Hey YouTube, Andy here. Today I'm going to be sharing my impressions of the Lenovo Legion Slim 7, a thin and light 15-inch gaming laptop from Lenovo that I've had for 2 months. Let's get started. My unit has the Ryzen 5800H and RTX 3060 combo with the Full HD 165Hz screen. I got this on sale from Best Buy for $1,200. I've upgraded the RAM from 16GB to 40GB, and since it does support Flex dual channel memory, that shouldn't have much of an impact for performance since that mostly affects the iGPU, which I won't be using. Build quality on the Legion Slim 7 is very good for the price and the specifications, but not quite class-leading. Overall rigidity is good, especially when the laptop is closed, but there is a noticeable flex on the bottom of the laptop if you pick it up one-handed while the laptop is open. I'm pretty sure this is unavoidable due to the large air intake on the bottom panel, and it's generally advisable to always use two hands when moving a laptop, but it's worth mentioning. Beyond that, I haven't noticed any other issues with the mechanical build quality. One more aspect of the external design I do want to mention is how much this unit attracts fingerprints and hand sweat. The finish is black metal that is very smooth. It actually feels really nice to touch, but it does show skin oils and hand sweat quite a bit. I've also noticed, and this may just be me, that the extremely smooth finish almost seems to make my hands sweat more than normal, or more than I would expect from other laptops, which just makes sort of the issue of showing sweat and grease a little bit worse. It does wipe down really well since it's so smooth, like nothing really sticks to it. It's pretty easy to clean up, but it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're picky about having your laptop look really clean all the time. This would look a lot better probably if it was in silver. Moving on to the keyboard and trackpad, they're both great on my unit. I'm a fan of the Lenovo keyboard layout, and this is a really good implementation of it. Key travel isn't quite as deep as some of my favorite ThinkPad keyboards from Lenovo, but I've had no trouble getting up to speed on this keyboard at all. The per-key RGB backlighting is also really impressively bright and clean. This is the first laptop I've had with that, and I think it looks great. But I'm a bit disappointed about how few presets there are to take advantage of this, even when you install the Corsair iQ software, which a lot of people have reported issues with, so I tend to keep that uninstalled. And it's like 1.5 GB to control RGB, which just seems, really bloated. So I've seen some mixed reviews on the trackpad, but the one on my unit is awesome. It's one of the best Windows trackpads I've used. It's really big, it's really responsive, it has a short, really consistent click on both the left and right. So this trackpad has been awesome for me, and the keyboard as well has been really good for me, other than, I wish there were a few more options for using the per key RGB backlighting, but overall, keyboard and trackpad, awesome. The port selection on the Legion Slim 7 is a bit odd, but in actual day-to-day use, I haven't had any issues with it. The Slim 7 comes with 2 USB-A ports and 2 USB-C ports. They are all USB 3.2, and both of the USB-C ports support power delivery and display out. So the notable ports missing on what is a 15-inch gaming laptop are Ethernet and HDMI. Those are the ones that would be nice to have, especially Ethernet to me, because I do have plenty of USB-C display cables around. I've been using that for a while. But yeah, those would definitely be nice, and it kind of feels like there's probably room for them, but it's hard to say. I'm not a laptop engineer. There's also a full-size SD card reader, which is nice. And like I said, I've had really good success using USB to DisplayPort adapters. So I have a cord that just goes straight from USB-C to DisplayPort. And then I also do have a Lenovo Thunderbolt 3 dock that I use for working from home. And I've had no problems with that as well, even though this doesn't support Thunderbolt 3. But I've been able to use that to go full 165 hertz to my 1440p 165 hertz gaming monitor, and it has worked really well. So that's pretty awesome news. So the port selection is a little bit limited, like I said, on a 15-inch laptop, but you'll know if this is a problem for you. I will also go ahead and mention the Wi-Fi here. My Legion Slim 7 came with a Realtek 8852AE wireless card. My experience with it so far has actually been good. I'm getting full speed on my half-gig internet connection, and I haven't had any issues dropping out or experiencing lag with gaming, but there have been a lot of people online talking about having issues with these, having random disconnects, having speed and latency problems. So it seems like there are a lot of people that have problems with these Realtek cards and these Lenovo Legion laptops. The good news is that you are able to upgrade these to an Intel Wi-Fi card if you need to, which generally runs about $30 to $40. So there are at least options for that, but you should be aware that some people do have problems with the Wi-Fi in these units. Okay, moving on to the display. The one in the Legion Slim 7 is quite nice to use, if not necessarily like a mind-blowing screen. So like I mentioned at the top, I have the full HD 165Hz model, and it looks quite good at the higher brightness settings. It's very comparable to other standalone IPS displays I've had, though I do wish that there were a few more stages of brightness as you dim the display, because I feel like once you get past the top 2 to 3, the brightness gets very low very quick. Though that is kind of nice that, if you're working in a dark environment, it does get actually really dim at the bottom end. So I don't have any equipment to actually test the brightness of the display or calibration, but I'm guessing that this is around 350 to 400 nits at full brightness, just compared to other displays I've had, which for me is plenty on a matte screen. Gaming looks great at 165 Hertz refresh rate. I haven't really noticed any smearing on that, though I'm not a display expert, and like I said, I don't have the equipment to test all this. I'm just giving you my impressions. This is a 16:9 display, which is starting to fall out of favor as 16:10 and even 3:2 displays are becoming more and more common. But I actually don't mind 16:9 on a 15-inch or larger display, because I think as long as it's big enough that you can run it at 100% scaling, then 1080p is not too bad. It's more on like 13 and 14-inch laptops, where I find that having that taller aspect ratio makes a bigger difference, because you have to scale it anyway, where you're running at like 125 or 150% scaling. So I don't mind the 16:9 aspect ratio, and it does make it actually quite nice when you're watching video, because you're not going to get the letterboxing, the black bars. So I like the screen quite a bit. It's not an amazing screen, but it's a really quality, just IPS gaming screen, and I've enjoyed using it. The speakers on the Legion Slim 7, unfortunately, are less impressive, but they're not horrible. So they are downward-firing speakers, so that can cause them to be a bit muffled if you're using this on your lap, especially in bed, where you might have like a blanket going on. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I do it anyway. And overall, even when you've got them in the best-case scenario, like on a desk, or just where they have more room to bounce out, they're lacking in bass and overall balance. I feel like the mids aren't really there either, so they're a little bit tinny. They do get to a reasonably good volume, and they're not awful. They're not super tinny like a lot of thin and light speakers are, or speakers from thin and light laptops are. But they're really not good. So I also have one of the lower end Asus G14 models kicking around, and the speakers on those absolutely blow away the speakers on the Legion Slim 7. So if you're a music fan, you're probably going to find these a bit disappointing, but they are perfectly fine for like watching YouTube and watching TV. Just, keep your expectations in check regarding the speakers. Okay, let's finally talk about performance a little bit, though, like I don't have equipment for measuring the display. I'm not a huge benchmark guy. I'm not a professional reviewer. I just like to come in and talk about these devices that I've had access to. And so my experience with performance is that it's been great. Gaming performance has been awesome. I've had some gaming laptops in the past that I've used where they're just like more stuttery than desktops that I've used, but I've noticed no stutteriness on this at all, which is really impressive. And performance seems very close to my desktop, which has an RX 6600 XT. And that is a relatively comparable GPU to the 3060, but given that this is a thin and light 15-inch laptop, it's pretty impressive that it's so close. So the only benchmark that I actually did run between these two was Forza Horizon 5 at 1440p, high preset. So this is going to my external display. And there's only a 2 FPS difference on the built-in benchmark, 82 versus 80. So this is performing really well in terms of gaming. The Legion Slim 7 does have a MUX switch, which will help you if you are going to be gaming on the internal display, and it also in the BIOS has a GPU overclocking option, which is necessary if you want to get the maximum performance out of this, though it will cause the fans to run a little bit louder and the system to run a little bit hotter. But I haven't noticed any stuttering in longer gaming sessions on it, so it seems like the cooling can keep up, probably due to how much ventilation there is on the bottom of the laptop. I also edited this video on the laptop, and performance in Premiere and in Photoshop has been exactly what I would expect from, a high-end gaming laptop. The one issue with performance that I have noticed, which is something that I've noticed on pretty much every gaming laptop I've ever used, so I'm pretty sure this is more of a driver issue, is that YouTube playback gets flaky if I switch between having it plugged into battery or having it plugged in versus then switching to battery. Especially I feel like if I switch between an external monitor and no external monitor, that YouTube just gets really flaky and starts dropping frames. And I basically have to reboot the system. I guess I could maybe just restart the graphics drivers, but this isn't an issue that's unique to gaming laptops, but it is something that, as someone who watches a lot of YouTube, I find it kind of annoying that YouTube seems to be like the site that most struggles, switching between dedicated and integrated graphics. So one issue that I am going to bring up related to performance, and this is probably the biggest issue along with the speakers that I have with this laptop, is the fan noise. And so the fans are not actually that bad when you're really pushing the laptop, like gaming or doing a render, something like that. You'll hear them, it's a laptop, so they're going to make noise, but there are way more obnoxious laptops out there when it actually spins up. The issue I have is that the fans almost never actually just shut up and get quiet when you have the laptop plugged in. The Lenovo Vantage app does offer 3 power plans, one called Quiet, Balanced, and Turbo, but unfortunately these make no difference when the laptop is plugged in, or at least I haven't been able to notice any difference. I guess there is one between Balanced and Turbo. Like Turbo, the fans will always be a little louder, but I've noticed zero difference between Quiet and Balanced. Unfortunately, this means that you're basically going to be always hearing the fans anytime it's plugged in. Even if you're just browsing the web or writing the script for this video, for example, the fans will always be running and they'll always be audible. The noise from the fans is a mixed bag, like I said. When it's really running, they don't sound too bad, but that persistent running, they are a little bit whiny when they're running at lower speeds. So the fact that they almost never shut off. So I would say it's, less than 1% of the time when you have it plugged in that the fans will be inaudible. So you're going to be hearing them all the time. And it is a little bit of a high pitch. So that's something that I find pretty annoying about this laptop. I have seen some rumors online that Lenovo will be adding fan control to the Legion BIOS at some point this year. But, unfortunately, I have no way of knowing when that's coming or if it's coming at all on older systems. And unfortunately, the BIOS right now doesn't give you any fan control or fine-tuning of the heat management. There are some that do have like an ultra-quiet mode. Unfortunately, the Slim 7 is not one of those. So that's really disappointing to me because otherwise with the SD card with the SD card reader and how thin and light this laptop is and the quality, if not exceptional IPS screen, this is a really attractive laptop for media production. But if you record music or you record voiceovers at all, having that constant fan noise going is kind of a deal breaker. So hopefully they release an update for that, but I'm not necessarily counting on it. All in all, the Lenovo Legion Slim 7 is a really interesting device, coming in at a comparatively low price for a £4 15-inch gaming laptop. While there are several areas for improvement, like a more fingerprint-resistant finish, better speakers, and more control over the fans, it really comes down to whether these are deal breakers for you. There are also new 6th-gen Ryzen laptops launching, which you should keep an eye on, but the 5800X or the 5800H RTX 3060 combo should still offer a really great gaming performance for years to come. So given the current supply chain issues and the high prices on new models and how long it can take them to actually get out to consumers, I would definitely still consider the Legion Slim 7 if none of the issues that I mentioned are deal breakers, especially since, like I said, it does go on sale quite a bit, and maybe even dropping below the previous sale prices as these new parts start to become available. Okay, so this has been my review for the Lenovo Legion Slim 7. Thank you for watching, and do let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the Legion Slim 7, and I will try to get you an answer.